Welcome back to your favorite St. Louis sports podcast, The Lunatics. After a long and fun break, I'm your host, Tyler, along with my friend and co-host, John, as we're going to try to make this a fun recap episode, preparing for our next few weeks as we do deep dives into the end of the Cardinals season, start of the Blues season, and, well, soon to be the end of the City season. John, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. I just noticed you got a haircut.
Yeah.
And it's looking good. That's why it's been so long. We've been waiting for this haircut to get done.
Yeah, I got my haircut like 2 weeks ago, but yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Yesterday. I get it. So anyway, no, it looks good. It's good. I'm just a little jealous because you got a little bit on top that I don't. So
you could. They make things that you can just kind of like glue on.
Yeah, hair plugs. Could do that. Some minoxidil, just rub it on over.
just roll with it. It'll be fine.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
So we just finished what may be our last season in our current online dynasty for NCAA football. For those of you who care and were following the trash talking, John and I are 1-1 against each other, and Scott won every national title but one. So,
and who won the other one?
You did. That was the year you beat me. Yeah.
Oh, wait, right. When we got on this show and you were talking shit. And then we ended this show and you went and lost.
Yep. I remember that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure we were clear.
Who lost to the CPU multiple times in the playoffs?
I'm just saying the CPU played better than you did. Oh, and for the record, Scott has blown you out almost every single time he's played you. And I only lost by 3. So
hit and miss, different play styles.
Yeah. It's true.
So
that's not that we're not an NCAA football podcast, online dynasty podcast. We could be if the viewers were interested in that, but I don't think they are.
Probably not. But I still think we should get in there and do some live streaming of some games. We should record an episode while we're playing each other at some point, because I think that would be really entertaining to try to see what happens. Nobody's going to want to watch that, but it'd be funny.
Right. We'd have to do a LAN network at your house when the kids are gone. And then what else would we have to do? I don't know. We'd have to extend the quarters. We'd have to make it a longer game for this.
Yeah, I think it would be fun because we could host it on Riverside still.
Right.
And then we could send out the stuff to people and people could log in and talk shit while they're watching with us.
They could do that.
Look, we're coming up with all the best ideas. More importantly with college football, how about those Mizzou Tigers? Rough week to bring them up. So I was thinking about this, and the loss to Texas A&M was disappointing, but not unsurprising.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't playing like a top 10 team. I think they are a top 10 team based on talent, but they have not played like a top 10 team at all this year. Mental mistakes everywhere, stupid penalties. Every time that, if Brady Cook expects the receiver to cut, the route a little bit more inside, they go a little bit more outside, right? They're never on the same page. You've had missed blocks. The tackling has been absolutely atrocious. You see guys going for arm tackles. The few times you do see them trying to stand up a running back, they just get, bowled over and then they get an extra 3 or 4 yards out of it. Like, it's just bad fundamentals as far as the game of football is concerned. And it's everywhere. It's at every position on the team. And their sheer talent alone is what had them going into that game 4-0.
Yeah. No, 100%. That Vandy win in overtime looks better now after the Alabama loss.
It does look really good. It does look really good.
But nonetheless, that should have never gone to overtime. I mean, missed field goals, missed assignments. I mean, just atrocious.
Yeah, it's just
discipline.
bad football.
And anybody who knows football and was watching the games could have seen it. You want to be hopeful that, okay, they're going to get their head straight. And I kept hoping that, okay, maybe this Boston College game will wake them up, right?
Right.
And then I was like, okay, maybe Vandy for sure, right? Vandy taking it overtime at home, that's got to wake them up, right?
Right. Well,
no.
And then the other thing, and I get that Weekman was hurt and they weren't sure if they were going to be, if he was going to be playing, and that he's very different from, who is it, Reed, their backup, I think. But you still had 2 weeks to prepare. You had 2 weeks. You had the bye week. There's just no excuse for that, for any of it. Now, so if they go down to Alabama in a few weeks and win that game, that helps a lot. But I have no illusions that this team will be anywhere near competitive with Alabama based on what we've seen so far.
Well, if I'm using Vandy as a measuring stick, it's going to be a real close game.
Vandy was playing good football against us and against Bama. Like, they were playing smart football. But they weren't making mental mistakes. Well, yeah, right. I see what you're saying, because we barely beat Vandy and Vandy barely beat Alabama. We should be able to compete with Alabama.
It should be a competitive game.
Right.
And really, that's all I wanted out of the game this last weekend. Going to College Station, I mean, you and I talked about it before the season. It was a coin flip game. Right. We should be able to beat them on talent, but playing in College Station can be tough. And if it's a competitive, close game, even if you lose, 35-31, okay.
Right. And that's the thing, is that it was not a close game, right? That's part of why they dropped so much. If it had been a close game, they'd probably be a top 15 team because of all the other losses that happened. But because they got blown out, and there should be a consequence for losing that way. They looked really bad against A&M. So we'll see.
Yeah. If we lose against UMass, I'm done with the season.
Yeah. I might be done with the team if we lost to UMass. Come on.
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, I think it's still TBD. For those big college football fans out there, I think a team to watch right now that has a potential chance to make some noise that people may not be paying attention to is Iowa State, who's now 5-0 and has a fairly easy road the rest of the way. I think they've got one tough game left on their schedule, and if Iowa State runs the table, could sneak into the playoff and look like a interesting team to make some noise. So if you're looking for a random team to maybe cheer for, Iowa State Cyclones are somebody to keep your eye on if the Mizzou falls apart.
Right. It's really kind of surprising that Vandy, like if you think about it, Vandy is really close to being a 5-0 team, and they have some really impressive games in there. But yeah, it's just that the top 15 is just a complete cluster, because you have a bunch of teams that lost to other teams that are in that top thing, and it's just like a carousel of losses. So
I do want to ask, before we move on to our next thing here, how much do you think NIL is playing into this as far as bringing parity to NCAA into the football world, into Division I football?
I am not convinced yet that it is because of NIL, but I do think it has played a role. And I'm hopeful that we continue to see that, and hopefully we see a little bit more of a redistribution of the money for the networks. I think that's part of why you're seeing the Big Ten and the SEC talking about forming essentially a super league, right? Because they're the two most popular conferences that are left, and almost all of the top teams are in those two conferences. So, and they're trying to protect their own interests by doing that. But I do think NIL is certainly helping, and I think also just making it easier for guys to transfer, right? But and it's making it easier for teams to recruit guys who are transfer eligible. Like these guys want to play. Almost none of them want to go the Alec Moran route, right? Where they just ride the bench for 4 years.
Matt Castle.
Yeah, right.
Because Castle rode the pine behind Palmer.
Yeah.
And then behind Leinart.
Yep. And still made a lot of money doing it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I do. If we see it again next year, I'll be more convinced. But I want a larger sample size.
I agree. I think it's a contributing factor, but I think there's a lot of other things at play here, and I'm not sure exactly where the true onus lies yet. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Cardinal season ended.
Yeah, perfect. Gag.
Hey, first of all, you and I said at the beginning of the year, I think we said the top end of the team's talent was 87 wins. They finished with 83, 84, something like that.
Yeah, no, and we said that was like
right around, just right above 500 was where they should finish.
Right.
And honestly, at the time, I thought 87 wins would win the division. The Brewers proved me wrong.
They did. They did. And I mean, we did get second in the division, but that's not good enough, right? So the Cardinals are not rebuilding. They are resetting. Soon we will be digging deep into that. They don't have to trade or sell guys at the major league level, but have indicated that they probably will, partly to reduce payroll so they can reinvest in the minor leagues, and partly to give more major league playing time to guys that they believe in, right? And I'm mostly okay with this because it's clearly not been working what they've been doing the last few years. You and I talked about it a lot early on this year that they've kind of gotten away from the Cardinal way. So, I want to see them get back to that. And I think that this is a necessary, if upsetting or frustrating, step that they have to take for
it. I agree with that. I think, again, there's a lot of things to get into. One big thing of note, and we talked about it off and on the podcast, but they did announce they're not bringing Goldie back. And I think that definitely, obviously, paves the way for what this next movement, what this next thing is. Other big news for those of you that aren't aware, although we already knew this was going to happen, but Mozeliak's last season charge is next season, which makes sense because his contract runs out, and we've all been counting down those days for a while. But I think this current off season and what they choose to do is really going to determine the future of the club. We've got some people planned to come on and discuss this more in depth with us, and I think it'll be a real exciting longer term video. But there's some pieces that I definitely don't want to necessarily see go, but I would understand if they did. And really, Sonny Gray's the big one for me.
Right.
And Wilson Contreras.
Yeah. And I mean, I think for me, I would add Nolan from a nostalgia standpoint, Nolan Arenado, but like what he was this year was not good enough. So like if he moves on, he moves on. But Sonny and Wilson, I would like to give Sonny more time, and Wilson has been everything we expected him to be and more. So
yeah. It's like that's kind of where I'm at. Is I appreciate Arenado, but if the Dodgers or somebody are ready to give us a bunch of good prospects for him, and he can potentially go and end his career on a high note, I'm all for him doing that.
Right.
I would love to keep Wilson and Sonny Gray here to help build it as kind of like the two veteran leaders to build around, and to help lead the team into this next phase. I think Gibson's another good one to keep around. I don't think they'll bring Lynn back. I wouldn't be surprised if they did, just because they need
to
have people to eat innings. But I think if they brought one back, I would prefer to have Gibson back. Reminiscing on early 2000s Cardinals baseball. I really feel like Gibson reminds me of like the number 4, number 5 starters of like the mid 2000s, where they're those guys that are going to get you 5-6 innings. They may give up 4 or 5 runs, but they're going to give you innings, and they're going to be able to help you through the season. And a good chunk of the time, they're going to give you 2 to 4 runs, and you'll have a chance to win the game as long as your offense is performing. And realistically, he's a guy who's been around the league and can help the team grow.
Right. Well, and the other issue is that so I think Steven Matz is out of contract, but we have an option. Michaelis has one more year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and they have guys that they want to see pitch at this level. They want to see more of Palante, right? They want to see, oh God, Graceffo. They want to see, they probably want to see Tink Hence relatively soon, right? Like they have pitching arms that they want to see more of. I think McGreevy was another one, right? That they would like to see more of. So like they need space to be able to do that. And you know, I do think they bring one of those two guys back. I don't think they bring both of them. I don't think they pick up Steven Matz's option. And I think they give Sonny Gray the choice, and it's up to him.
Yeah. Well, and throw another pitcher name out there for those of you who aren't aware. Quinn Matthews is not, you know, he's into next season, into 25, early 26. Chances are the guy's going to be here.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, we need to make space for those guys to play at this level and develop. And, you know, you normally don't want guys to be developing at the major league level, but I think it's what this next group of guys, I think it will go a long way to helping this next group of guys.
I think about like some of those names you threw out, right? McGreevy, Graceffo. Those guys have been at AAA for however long. Like we're at the point where they either need to develop at the pro level or we need to move on.
Right. And as part of our rebuild, and you talked reset that you talked about with Mozeliak leaving, is that Shane Bloom will replace him and that he is investing a lot this year. He's going to be overseeing the development of our minor league program and fleshing that out a little bit more, where we're going to be investing supposedly in more staff and more coaches to like coordinators for each position group, basically. They're going to be adding technology to our minor league stadiums and our teams to help optimize and improve our efficiency with our mechanics. Really kind of bring in some more of that data analytics that the top teams at the MLB have long had. And that's why they are outpacing us with talent that they are personally developing. So,
yeah, I think it'll be good. I think Chaim Bloom he's got a track record of both success and failures. And so I think it'll be interesting to see, and not outright failures, but some very successful and some less successful operations. So I think it'll be interesting to see how he does. But I think as far as at least putting the infrastructure in, I think he will probably do a good job of it. So I'm not. I think he has a better idea of what needs to be in place than Mozeliak does. So him overseeing it gives me a little bit more hope.
He at least has more experience with the types of things we're wanting to add.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, and it goes back to like the beginning of this year, right? With Sonny Gray, where he was like asking for like a specific pitching coach or whatever, or a specific person.
Pitching lab or something.
A pitching lab, yeah. And they were like, oh, we don't have that. Do other teams have that? And they were like surprised. And he was like, yeah, every team I've been at for years has had that. And that's just, I don't know, that's just the way it's been for the Cardinals. And it's just getting frustrating, especially because like guys want to play on the coast. They want to play in big cities, right?
Oh, yeah.
St. Louis is not really a draw compared to LA or San Diego.
Yeah. So, I kind of want to hop into the last team that season is kind of dwindling down, more or less over. So St. Louis City has had an interesting go of it, as we've chronicled through the year. They needed everything to go right in the second half of the season post Leagues Cup for us to even have a chance. Things did not. But since starting on September 1st, well, really, if you just want to go back to the end of Leagues Cup break, we can go start with Portland. The Portland game was disappointed. We had multiple goal leads multiple times and no tying. We still get a point out of it. You just needed more at that time. But we've only lost 2 games since in that stretch, right? Mm-hmm. And we're talking in an 8-game stretch. We've only lost 2. And we won, 4 of those? So 3 of those, 4 of those.
I th-
4.
More than 3. I was going to say, I thought it was 4. I can't
We
remember. I
won
think
4.
we're 4, 2, and 2.
We beat Galaxy, we beat San Jose, we beat KC, and we beat Houston.
Right.
We
We
and
lost
2
to
of
LA
those teams are
and to Minnesota.
lost to LA and Minnesota. We tied New England and Portland.
Right. Portland was the team I couldn't remember. Yeah.
That was the game that was painful.
One
was
of
that
them.
4-4 tie.
Yes. To be fair, we've had a lot of 3-3 ties this year too, early in the year. But
yeah. So, but really though, I mean, if you think about it, right? I mean, 4-2-2 over an 8-game stretch. That's a respectable record, right? Like,
yeah,
if you can extrapolate that over a season, right?
If you extrapolate out since Leagues Cup, I think it comes out to like 59 points. And really, if you go back to when the window opened, which is basically when Teuscher came, right? Because he came for the Kansas City game before the break. Mm-hmm. We already know about those 8, but you can add a draw against Kansas City, mm-hmm. a win against Dallas, a draw against Juarez, a near win. It was a loss, but a near win against Club America, and then
another win against
and
Portland.
A win against Portland, right? So you can add 2 wins and 2 draws and 1 loss to that, right? And then it's like 4, 3, and 4, depending on what order you put them in. Or no, it's 6, 3, and 4. Yeah, I added everything but the wins.
Yeah,
like that's a really good season right there. That's a really good 2 or 3 month stretch that we've had. This team looks really, really good going into next year. Now there's going to be a ton of roster moves that have to be figured out because we signed a lot of guys, and we have guys coming back from injury. We have Perez in theory coming back from loan. We have to figure out something to do with Pedro. So like, there's going to be a lot that has to be done, and we're going to break all of that down. But this new group of guys, like I think they've got a good group that plays well together right now. We've got guys that are creative, guys that can press well. And like we've always been able to press decent, but like now we have offensive creativity with it.
I think the biggest difference is we can pick and choose when we press a little bit better, because if we have the ball, we're okay having
mm-hmm.
the ball.
Yes, I do. That is one thing I think has changed, is that we do feel more comfortable in possession. And a large part of that is that like, okay, Leuven, is German, right? So he comes from a gegenpressing system because that's what they all grew up learning basically. But like, he's clearly comfortable with the ball, right? Klaus is comfortable with the ball, and not really a lot of other guys on our team were comfortable with the ball at their feet. Celio. I would give Ostrak. Right. I think Ostrak was pretty comfortable with the ball at his feet. But now we also have Teuscher and Hartel, who are both extremely comfortable with it. Betcher clearly is comfortable with the ball at his feet.
Well, and I would go a step further and say Kessler's way more comfortable with the ball at his feet than Parker was.
Yeah.
It's not close, I don't think.
No, not at all. Like Kessler has really good anticipation too. He's almost like Nielsen has really good anticipation, and I think Kessler is just as good at it as he is.
This last game, and I'm sure you probably saw a couple of the same moments that I did, but there was a couple moments where it was pretty much just Nielsen and Kessler getting back. Yeah. And I mean, the two played off each other like flawlessly, and I'm like, looked like they'd played together for years, and I'm like, this is the center back pairing. Like, and Kessler still has the speed, right? Like he's fast.
He is. He's surprisingly fast for like looking as tall and lanky. Like he does not look like a guy who can move, right?
No.
And then he does. He covers some ground, long legs, big strides.
Yeah. It comes in handy. I don't think his change of direction is quite as quick as somebody like a Hartel.
Yeah.
But
right. He's not Celio, right? So
yeah. So
I will say, can I also mention while we're talking about that pairing, Nielsen looked so freaking good in those last 2 games since he's been back. And I was watching it, I was telling, who was I talking to? Doesn't matter. Oh, Michael, Chat City Tactics, Michael, who's on the show earlier this year. He and I were talking about it, and I was like, I think so many people like just never realized how good Joachim Nielsen actually is as a center back, just because he's been hurt too much to really get comfortable.
We talked about it on our podcast last year as he was coming back, but going into last season, yeah, everyone was excited about Berkey and Leuven, but like the highest rated player on our team was Nielsen by far.
Yeah, by
It
far.
was just pre-injury, right? Like
Right,
his big knee injury, he was by far the best player that we probably had on our team.
Yeah.
And if the guy can stay healthy, I mean,
Right.
still, I mean, and then you, again, pairing him up with somebody like Kessler, who I love Tim Parker. So, you know, Tim Parker, I think he's great. I think he did wonderful things for our team. I feel like Kessler is a much smarter and more intuitive player. And I think pairing Kessler up with Nielsen, I mean, like, it is, sky's the limit for that pairing. It's just making sure that your outside back pairing around them is solid, and something that I think I would be very intrigued to see moving more into next year is that 3 center back look.
Mm-hmm.
With
Always,
Horn,
right? Always, we want
well,
that
with
3
Horn,
center back
because Horn is a center back
yeah.
by trade, and the guy, he's looked solid, and they did that with him a couple times, and they used Hebert at the time, but he looked good.
Yeah, well, I think Horn was originally a left back, and his last team was using him more as a center back, as a left center back in a 3 center back look. But yeah, another thing I want to point out about Kessler. So Nielsen is 31, I think. So towards the end, but still could have easily a few years as a center back, right? Could easily have a few years. Kessler's only 26.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so
that is
right there with
young
Durkin,
for
right?
a center back. Yeah, Durkin's even younger. Durkin's still on a U22. He's 24 going on 25, I think. You're looking at
24. Yep. 24 going on 25. You nailed it.
Yeah. So the only reason I know that is because he's on a U22 contract that ends this year. That's the only reason I know that. You can't be 25 and on a U22. So, I mean, like, that is really young. That is like not even hit. Like, that's younger than Hebert, right? Like, Hebert, I think, is 27. Like, and like, that's right at the beginning of your peak for a center back. The beginning of it.
The Parker move was, as much as it, you know, again, Parker.
It sucks because it's Parker.
He sucks because he's Parker, right? He scored our first goal, scored our first playoff goal. I mean, he was kind of that fire and passion. But I think it was clear when Carnell was no longer there. Parker was kind of Carnell's guy. Carnell really liked Parker. Although I'm not so sure from what I've heard if this feeling was mutual.
Yeah, I've heard similar.
But then and then when the contract wasn't there, I mean, I think City was willing to bring Parker back, but they wanted a big discount because they're like, you know, and and I discussed it, in that physically his game spin is so based on his speed. Has lost a step. His game's going to decline faster than somebody like Nielsen, who is intuitive and better positioning and anticipates better. And I think that trade to move on from Parker and get somebody like Kessler, who's younger and coming into their prime, was brilliant.
Right. Well, and I do want to say, like, we already had Parker at a discount. So, like, both sides are right with what they were asking, right? Parker felt like he was worth what he was being paid total, which was approximately $1 million with, you know, some change. But Houston paid half of that. So, like, yeah, to us, to our team, to Luz, you are worth a $500,000 contract roughly. And to Tim, he is worth a $1 million contract, and they're both right in that situation. I will say he has not seen the field a whole lot at New England the last few games. AZ has not seen the field a whole lot. Sam has not seen the field a whole lot. So, like, yeah, we really liked these guys because of what happened the first year, but, like, they're clearly, you know, what everyone else said they were, that we, you know, didn't buy into in the first season because they played better than what everyone said that they were. You know, they're kind of looking like what we were told they were. So I think, you know, I have to give Lutz some credit because He has said like he's not going to let most players, the big players, leave on a free. Like that's just not going to happen, and that's why he moved on from Parker. He had some value he could get back. I did hear that they have not talked to Jake Nerwinski about his contract at all yet because he has an option for next year. I think he was probably on the way out until Leagues Cup whenever he came in for Totland and played rather well as a right back. But the team is also trying every young guy we have at right back. Like, I don't know.
This is where I go back to Totland makes more sense as a wing back, especially if you're in a 3 center back look. That's where Totland's stronger, and I think that's where they potentially, when the move for Horn came through, Horn could also really fill that wing back look, but we have several guys that could do that, play that wing back position. And Horn can also play left back in a 3 center back look, as can Hebert. And Hebert can play anywhere along that line, as can probably Kessler and Nielsen. So, like, all of a sudden, if you have 5 center backs, solid center backs, because we all love Yarrow. Yarrow's going to San Diego in the expansion draft. We all know it's coming.
Well, he's out. He is straight up out of contract. They have to like actually offer him a contract. But as you would say, they should probably do that and leave him unprotected because he is a slam dunk for San Diego, and that protects a lot of your other guys. I don't think any of our guys are going to be taken because like we're a bad team this year, and you don't tend to want to take guys from the bad team. But like still, we have guys we don't want to lose.
I think the guys that we don't want to lose will for sure be protected, and I think we'll be fine.
Right. The problem is I have 18 guys, we'll probably only be able to protect 12.
I have a lot of guys that I want protected, and the guys that I worry about not being protected and getting taken are people like Celio and Ostrak.
Yeah. Ostrak, I think, is a little bit more likely to be protected than Celio, although Celio is cheaper, right? So, like, you could make the case, but Celio's coming off such a nasty injury that, like, I don't think, like, you could leave him unprotected because I don't think anyone would want to take that risk, right?
Yeah.
And you could say the same for Ostrak, right? Yeah, like, he's on a high salary, and he had to have a tendon in his ankle repaired. Like, you could make the case that they don't want to take a risk on a guy that costs that much with that kind of that's coming back from that sort of thing. I'm more worried about, I don't know, someone like Rasmus Alm, right?
Oh, if they don't protect Alm, that would be
it would be stupid. But like you start going down the list of guys who are going to be protected, right? So
I think one of the guys that, and I don't know if DPs can actually be picked.
They have to be protected if they have a full no trade clause.
Okay.
But if you can leave them unprotected if they don't have a no trade clause.
One of the guys that I would leave unprotected because I don't think anybody's going to take him is Klaus.
I don't know. I'm actually looking up who San Diego has signed so far because I can't remember who all they've had. So they do have a goalkeeper. So Berkey is probably not going to be grabbed. I don't know this goalkeeper, but they have a goalkeeper. They have Marcus Ingvartsen, who's going to be their starting striker. They have another midfielder. They have Chuck Lozano, of course. And then they have Paddy McNair, who's a defender. So, like, they've got some of their bigger players already there. But clearly, like, if you have a chance to get another big player and you can fit it in the cap, you can. But, like they may not have space to fit Klaus in with some of those names, right?
Exactly.
Like,
well, not just that. How many goals does Klaus like? Right, Klaus is a great creator and facilitator, but he does not necessarily have that nose for goal where it's like that killer instinct in the box.
He did not this year. He did last year. I think
the first half of last year.
Yeah, but then he got injured and he came back.
Kansas City game aside.
He scored more than Kansas City last year, didn't he? After he came back, I'll have to take a look at that. I'll have to take a look at that. But I do think that when he's playing more consistently with Toyshirt and Hartel, which granted he's been playing with them for a little bit now, but I do think that's going to free him up when people start keying off on them more than they are keying off on Klaus. And then he's going to get some really good looks because he knows how to find a good spot.
I think the one thing that I want just a little bit more right now is we have Toyshirt and we have Klaus, and Klaus is your 9, and you want him to be the guy who's finding the goal, and Toyshirt's really playing that 10 role where like he's supposed to be facilitating, but you have your 9 and your 10 are both trying to facilitate, and you need one of them to be like, give me the ball, I'm going to put it in the net.
Right.
And well, that's where Betcher kind of comes into play right now.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah,
but
agree.
Again, it's whether or not we buy out that contract, and then that goes back to when you buy Betcher, that's just one more domino to what we were talking about earlier.
Right, but they already have him on loan through next July, so they have to find him a roster spot this winter, right? Like that's already, and at that point, like okay, yeah, you're not going to execute the option now because he could just completely disappear in the spring. But if he's anywhere close to what he's been this fall, you're buying that contract. Like, yeah, for sure.
Same thing with Horn.
Yeah, I think so. I'm less confident that Horn gets bought, but I mean, I could see them doing it. I don't have any complaints with his play yet.
If I
except current time he played right center back.
Current state right this second. If I could pick one, I think Horn would be more integral based on where we're at, because I think left back is a weaker spot on our team than up top is overall.
I think it is, but I think Betcher's just played that well. I just think he's played that well.
I think our team's better when Betcher's on the field, for sure.
Oh, for sure. I do want to say, speaking of goals and all of that, how great was it that Jake Nerwinski got a goal, right?
And set the record with that goal.
Yes. I was surprised we didn't do that last year because we had so many different goal scorers. So the record, for those of you who didn't see it, was that we had the record for the most unique goal scorers in a single MLS season with 20.
Yeah, so we had 20 different guys score goals, and really it makes sense when you think about the fact that like we completely flipped our roster halfway through the year.
Right. Well, and like, I was listening to the STL Soccer Talk podcast with Tom Timmerman in the Post-Dispatch, and he started talking about the record and, said, do we think they can get to 21? Well, probably not, because everyone who's probably going to play in this last game has already scored a goal except for like 3 of them. And it's like those 3 guys are defenders who, aren't going to be in a good spot to score, because like Horn is one of them, Watts is one of them, and then who was the other one? I don't remember who the other one was, but it was like it was Hebert or Yarrow. One of them scored in Champions Cup but did not score in the league. And so I think one of them was the other one. So they're probably not going to score a goal. You never know. They could score a screamer. Could happen.
Watts has taken a couple of rips near the top of the box. I think he'd be the most likely if he puts one of those on frame.
Yeah.
I think, and again, I think looking at next year, right? Because you and I talked nonstop that we felt like this team was going to take a step back. We all knew this team was going to take a step back this year. I don't think anybody predicted the step back that we took.
Well, and it was just the injuries. Like, if you look pre-Ostrak injury, like, they were pretty close. Like, they were, like, 7th to 8th seed pretty consistently. Like, they were right there.
Losing Ostrak and Celio both did them in so quickly.
And then we lost Klaus and Leuven and Alm for a few weeks. Alm and Klaus for longer. And then, like, it just all...
Yeah, so I mean, but like, missing key players for extended time. But like you said, at that Ostrak, if you were still 7th or 8th, and then you get this influx of guys, and we have this finishing stretch that we're having now, we're a 5 or 6 seed
easily. Yeah, easily. And I want to point out the team that won the Western Conference this year was the LA Galaxy. They did not beat us this year. They drew us in the first game and they lost to us the second game. And okay, you go to the other big team, LAFC. Okay, LAFC, they beat us by 1 goal in both games. And granted, they played a lot better than us in the second game, but they still only scored the one. In the first game, that was the game right before Ostrak gets injured, when we get the very weird second yellow from Marcanic that just throws off the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this team drew Miami. Like, this team could play.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's where I think Horn was more important than Betcher, and that Horn has helped solidify our defense more.
Yeah.
And we have not been able to hold a lead. We've gotten leads this year. We haven't been able to hold them. And I think Horn has made a huge difference in us holding those leads. I think Kessler has too. But I think the combination there is huge for us. I also think, and this is probably understated, is Hebert's time with the national team when he came back was a different animal.
Yeah, I would agree. Do you know who leads MLS with drop points from leading positions?
Is it not us?
It is us. It is
so
us.
I assumed it was us.
Yeah, and it's 27 points, I think. Do you know who is second?
Is it KC?
It is KC, and they're like 1 point behind us. It's like absurd. Like,
Oh, you'll love this. So I was at the KC game.
Yes.
We had a KC fan, two KC fans, husband and wives, behind us that had gotten tickets because during the playoffs, the City fans were there sitting next to them. They're like, "You have to go to City Park next year. It's awesome." They're like, "Sure." Right. So they made plans. They got tickets. They came. After every City goal, everyone in the state, like all of the fans, the first 2 City goals, all turned around, and the KC fans were good sports because we were all like, they high-fived with us after City scored.
Yeah,
just
they know. They know.
Which, on the flip
they're
side,
having a bad year. They're having a worse year than we are.
They are. We all had to kind of eat our words for a minute when they scored that first goal, made it 2-1, and we all turned around. We all kind of knew it was coming. We're like, "Oh shit, here we go."
Yeah, you had the 5-5 back.
But then we got the third one. It was like, "Oh yeah, turn around. Let's do it again.
Turn around, let's do it." Yeah. Oh man.
They were good sports, so I appreciated them. We had a lot of like back and forth banter, like just giving each other crap, but in a much very fun, like lighthearted way. And right. I appreciate fans that you can do that with from the other teams.
Right. It's going to be so weird playing Kansas City just twice next year. Of course, we'll probably get them an Open Cup and the playoffs, and then it'll end up being 5 games again. But, we're only going to have 2 scheduled at least.
Wait. Did you say the Open Cup? Did you say we get to play in the Open Cup?
I mean, we are expected to play in the Open Cup. Okay. You didn't know that we're probably playing in the Open Cup?
No, I mean, I assumed we would. It was more of a, like, getting excited for it. I'm trying to build suspense here, John. I was giving you an opening. I know it's late.
It is late. I've been up a long time.
So I'm excited. I think, like I said, we have big roster moves to talk on St. Louis City coming up. We've got big moves and what we think the Cardinals need to do coming up.
Yeah.
Mizzou, we're going to have some interesting news over the next 2 weeks. We have UMass followed by Bama. We have one last fun team we haven't touched on. We'll try to make it quick here because John wanted this to be a 30-minute episode, and we're closing in on 45 minutes. So St. Louis Blues finally kicked off the season yesterday. It feels like it's been forever since I've had like real Blues hockey. I'm pumped.
It has been forever.
When
you don't make the playoffs, it's a long off season for hockey.
Ewan, my 4-year-old, is pumped about Blues hockey being back. So it's a good time over here in our household. So the first period started out great for about 5 minutes. The rest of the first period was what I would describe as horse shit. We were outshot, I think, at the end of the first period, like 20-8, and 6 of our 8 shots came in the first 4 minutes or something. You saw Kyrou brick one off the post, and I'm like, uh-oh, he's going to get in his head. It's all over, right? Then the second period starts, and right away, Seattle goes up 2-0, and you're like, and they scored like 1 minute and 50 something seconds apart, these 2 goals, and you're like, God, here we go again. Like this team
Right.
looked good for like 5 minutes. They were flying around the ice. I was getting excited.
I
And
was getting
then
the
the
updates
power
at
play
work.
comes.
I was getting
And
the
then the
updates at work, and I
power
was
play
just like, I'm
comes.
done. I'm done with this.
Power play happens. We get a goal. Then we get another goal. Then we get another goal. Literally. And on minute and 50 something seconds, we got 3 goals. And then we held on. Not only did we get the goals, we held
Yeah.
on to the lead. We shut them down. We looked like the more dominant team down the stretch. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, maybe that so for 2/3 of the game, felt like we were the better team. They were the better team for a third of it.
That's fair.
And the Kraken are not a bad team, so I don't feel bad about this game. They were, I don't know.
They're
I
not
think
a
they
good
were
team. They finished
just
below
missed
us.
the playoff.
They finished
They
below
just
us last year.
Last year, but they made the playoffs the year before.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they were like 10 points below us last year.
I'm just saying I'm not saying they're a good team. I'm just saying they're not a bad team.
Fair.
It's not like it's not like this was Columbus. Although
fair.
At this point, if we could beat Columbus, I'd be pumped because it was not great against them last year. But
right.
it was encouraging to see us play. I think we've got a lot of speed. We've got a lot of potential. I think
it's time for you to eat your words on Kyrou. Say something nice about Jordan. No, say something nice about Jordan.
First of all, like I said, was like Jordan Kyrou's going to get in his head. Not only did he not get in his head, scored a power play goal, and then followed up with a breakaway and put the puck in the net on his breakaway, which he was struggling to do last year because he had plenty of breakaways last year.
Right.
Could not finish.
He's fast. He's speedy.
He's so fast.
He's so fast. He makes other fast people look not fast. The other thing I was thinking about with the power play, though, that was what killed this team last year, was failure to capitalize on power plays. So if this, is consistent for this year, right? Like that would have made a big difference for them last year. They would have been a playoff team if they had capitalized on power plays better, especially earlier on in the season. Like that's, it's only one game. Let's not get too excited, but it is progress.
Did you watch any preseason?
No, did not get to watch any of the preseason games.
So I watched a couple, but there was a preseason game where we had 2 power plays. In a span of 2 power plays, we held the puck in the offensive zone for 3 minutes and 56 seconds of it. We couldn't put it in the net, right? So I get that, but it's preseason, right? You have different guys in there,
right?
But the fact that we were doing the things to keep the puck in the offensive zone, I'm like, it gave me good feelings.
Good vibes.
Again, good vibes. Again, it's not the finished product. It's not the regular season, but it was encouraging to see that maybe we've got some things figured out a little bit better, at least how to cycle the puck and keep it in the zone and get shots off. And then to see it come to fruition was nice yesterday.
ESPN is really calling this the inaugural season for Utah Hockey Club.
Oh, I know. It's so painful.
That's me. Also, their branding is painful.
For those of you who don't know, the Utah Hockey Club is the Phoenix Coyotes that they moved from Phoenix to Salt Lake City this year.
Yes. Which I'm cool with a team being in Salt Lake. I think that's awesome. But
and just the Phoenix Coyotes were playing in a 6,000 capacity.
Right. Like something needed to be fixed. Yeah. It's just all cringe though. Otherwise. Okay.
So I'm excited about the Blues. I think Broberg scored the other goal. Holloway looked good. Makes some of those signings from Army look exciting.
Makes Army look really smart.
And again, Army's not afraid to make changes, right? When we talked about when he put in those offer sheets on Broberg and Holloway, it was like he means business and he's not afraid to go after other teams' players. I have one last thing that I want to throw about that before we sign off, but did you hear did we talk about the Robert Thomas and where he was when those offer sheets came through?
He was with all of the, what is this? Sorry, I just got a pop up. Do I agree with the Steam subscriber?
He was with McDavid and Draisaitl of the Oilers.
Right, of the Oilers, dinner. Yeah. Right. I heard they were pissed. They were not happy.
Apparently they were giving each other a lot of shit because they hang out and practice together and train in the off season. And I think it's really funny that went down. So Do you know who? I know the Cardinals had a rough year. City had a down year. Do you know who else is having a down year right now?
Who else is having a down year?
The LA Rams.
They did lose this weekend.
They've lost a lot of weekends this year. I think they're like 1-4 now.
That's okay.
And I'm loving every minute of it because you know why, right?
Oh no, remind me.
So for those of you who are unaware, Stan Kroenke owns the Rams as he took them from St. Louis to LA. Yeah.
Had not heard that.
He of the marrying into the Walmart heiress franchise. You know,
it works.
Hey man, he married up and good for him, I guess.
I meant how you described it.
Yeah,
but it also works.
Doesn't change the fact that Stan Kroenke, we hate you, and good night, everyone.